Hey, just a quick share here. As I am putting together over the course of time some material for a CLE, which concerns testifying at ALJ hearings, some pitfalls and things of that nature, and strategies and techniques, for lack of a better word, that claimants can use or their representatives can use to help prepare them for testifying at hearing. Testifying at hearing in front of an ALJ, of course, is really nerve-wracking and stressful. If you feel nervous and anxious about it, know that that itself is actually very normal. So don't rely on that to show that you have an anxiety disorder. It better be found elsewhere. But so I'm looking at one particular sample of some narrative in ALJ denial, and the individual that testified uh, other really is not all that physically disabled. And that doesn't mean that there couldn't then be a fully mentally disabling condition, but apparently that wasn't found either, because this is a denial ALJ decision. But here are some things that came out in testimony when asked about, standing and walking and that kind of thing. And I got to tell you, all of these kind of work-related physical tasks, if you have not prepared in advance, you're doing yourself a grave injustice. They're definitely almost always going to be asked about, unless you are even if you are a purely mental disability case. So I tell people who don't have practice, don't have representatives, at least look at your function report. You might look at it and cringe if you've been looking at our function report series, as to some of your answers that could have been done better and more accurately. But nonetheless, go back to those questions now. Look at the items on question 20. It's a list of multiple items. It's like 15 or more, might even be 20. And those are kind of the tasks that they're going to be looking at to some degree or another. So in particular, if you look at the physical ones, those ones are ones that you should have an answer to. You should know how you're going to answer if you're asked about that at hearing. Or if you know something is limited, you're going to want to be prepared to discuss it. Even if you have to, if you're representing yourself, you have to ask yourself questions in front of the judge and answer them, right? So I don't know how this happened. Apparently there was a representative who brought up the issue of walking, standing, and the testifying claimant confirmed that indeed he could stand still for 2 hours. That's pretty lengthy standing, I have to tell you, for if someone's contending that they have serious leg, back, feet problems. It just is. Even for those of us that don't consider ourselves medically impaired, standing, say, in line for 2 hours, things might start to ache. So I would imagine if you have an actual impairment to those body parts, that might be quite a steep. So I don't know that this person actually, well, the person's either probably accurately not fully disabled and maybe just impaired and limited in which jobs the person can do. But that might be a difficult answer. The He testified as to like numbness in the feet and toes. Did note that after about 2 hours of standing, he would have to sit down due to it being painful. So he has to get off his feet after 2 hours. And I'm just looking to see if there was a question about, well, how long do you have to rest and be off the feet? But keep in mind, when someone says they have to be off their feet, that would generally, unless there's something else added to that, indicate they could be sitting down, like in a work type chair. They're off their feet and continuing whatever. So whatever kind of work jobs are out there where you can stand or you can sit periodically back and forth, they just confirm that at least from uh, a standing limitations point of view, that's completely still doable. Okay, so let's go on a little bit more. The person can walk for 10 minutes without needing a break or to stop or anything like that. If you think of a mile as being a 20-minute mile, that's about a half mile. What that probably tells a judge is that the person can clearly walk within an office setting, across the room, back and forth, to the fax machine, to the, copier, things of that nature. It could even be within a grocery store. In fact, they go to some testimony. Someone must have asked about shopping, perhaps, or walking when shopping. And this fellow said that he can certainly walk around a grocery store without needing to rest or anything like that. So the very typical ways that most people walk when they're not in a high-end walking job, but a low-end, moderate type of walking is fine for this person. Remember that for a light exertional job, of which there are many, 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 we have to be able to be on our feet, walking, standing for up to 6 hours in an 8-hour day. So just keep that as a little backdrop. Yeah, they go on for the other things, but I just wanted to talk about that particular section. If you think you can stand for 2 hours, I highly suggest you test it. Stand up on a hard floor and don't move for 2 hours. If it's walking, do the same thing. If you start to feel discomfort, I mean, I would document when you start and when it gets very annoying, and then when it's absolutely, you've got to stop. There is no black and white line as to how much discomfort we are expected to deal with. Obviously, most people in a workday, sadly enough, we all have aches and pains that develop usually by the end of the day. Whether we're sitting down and our butt hurts or we're doing a lot of walking, maybe we've got a little achiness in our legs or our back. And that's for the best of us, particularly when we're not in our 20s anymore. So give it some real thought. If you're talking about a back problem, a leg problem, a foot problem, even a neck problem at times, I would say, because the mere fact of holding yourself up oftentimes aggravates the upper spine, which is the cervical, right? The neck. So have yourself really knowing what you can and cannot do. I don't know if this person could do all this. It could be they could, and their medical records didn't deny it. So it's no wonder that he was found to be able to do pretty hefty on the feet activity. Not even to get into the fact that the person does all their own grocery shopping to boot, unrestricted. That would bring into other areas such as reaching and all this other kind of stuff. And also, if there's a mental health component, sometimes that would be reflected in limitations to shopping. Not necessarily prevention of all shopping, but sometimes limitations. But just in this realm of when you're talking about your physical capacities, remember your RFC that the judge will have to determine is going to be pulled from all of this, because this is going to affect the part of the RFC that refers to standing and walking, right? So, which ends up bringing about whether it's sedentary, light, medium, certainly sedentary and light. Okay. That's what I wanted to focus with on that. I know we're going to get this into I don't even know how long the CLE is going to be. It's not for a long time yet, so plenty of time. But I thought I'd share that with you because that is something that is going to be dealt with. And if you're working on if you're preparing for testimony, you need to address these things because that is part of what sunk this person's ship. Okay, take care. Bye.